going on, guys? It's Jake back in for another YouTube video. Today we are going to be installing a JDM gauge cluster into the red 2008 Subaru Forester XT. So we have it right here. Now it does take a good bit to actually make one of these fit in the car properly. Not physically, but make it be the same exact mileage as the car previously had. So the car has around 207,000 miles on it right now. And of course, the Japan car that this came out of did not have that many miles on it. And this gauge cluster also is a kilometers per hour gauge cluster. So basically, I ordered this from Forester Parts. You can find them on Instagram, find them on Facebook, and they helped me out with this. I drop shipped it straight to G-ROM cluster. So he reflashed the cluster to my exact mileage. So the car has been sitting down back for about a week now. I've been waiting to get this. I just don't want to put miles on the car. I want the miles to match up and be the same with this cluster as they are with the current cluster, so I don't lose my car's actual mileage. So we have the Japan gauge cluster. This is out of a Japan Forester STI. So basically the advantages you have is the middle gauge is now RPM and it reads out to 8,000, and then you have 180. He's also reflashed this to read mile per hour and read Fahrenheit. So it'll read the right temperature and it'll read the right mile per hour and obviously RPM, all that stuff. So should be a pretty straightforward install. I'm pretty sure it's just kind of plug and play, so shouldn't take long, but we'll show you guys how to do it. So if you guys like this type of content, make sure to drop a like, hit that subscribe button. Be sure to keep an eye out for the red car update video. This is just one of the things that I'm doing, but there are a whole host of other things going on the red car soon, so stay tuned. So this is where the car has been chilling while I waited for the gauge cluster to come in. So it's been just chilling down here. We're gonna go ahead and try to get this thing installed. Before I actually install this, I'll show you guys the differences, like physically in hand, so you can see for yourself like what actually is different. So let's go ahead and get a good look. Yep, so I have do not drive on there, and you can see, hopefully, see if we can get you in there, 208,058 miles. So I sent that number to G-ROM's cluster reflashing, and he basically put that into the new cluster. So that way when I put the JDM gauge cluster in here, everything should be exactly right with the amount of current miles that are on the car. So the first step is, you see right here, there's a hole there, and there's going to be a Phillips screw in that hole. Also one on the other side, there's going to be a Phillips head in that one. And then this shroud piece around the cluster will come out first. And then there'll be a couple more screws back in there to get the whole entire cluster out. And there'll actually be two plugs, one on each side. So I'm going to use a stubby just to get these two out because there's not too much clearance here. But then behind that one, I'll probably use a long Phillips head. So let's get into it. This piece should be loose. Let's go ahead and try to wiggle this out of here. Okay, see, now it's loose. Now what I could recommend is to tilt the steering wheel down as far as you can, because that's just going to help you get it out from behind here. And you might have to fool with it a little bit to get it above and get it actually out. I might have to use two hands. Oh, well, there it goes. So it seems like I kind of had it at like that angle there, and it kind of slid right out. So now you can see back in there, we have the cluster, the original cluster. If you look close down in that hole there, there is a Phillips head, close as I can. There's your first Phillips. Now over here on the other side is your second Phillips, and then up there on the top is your third Phillips. So we will take those three out, and you can kind of see the plug right here. That's one of the plugs, and the other plug is going to be on this side. I'm going to be using this long Phillips head. You probably don't need a screwdriver this long, but this is just going to get a long reach here to help us get in there and get the screws out. So it's on the one screw right there. Let's go ahead and turn that out of there. Now you want to be careful you don't drop these screws. Sometimes they stay in the screwdriver if you're really careful. That time it didn't. I'm gonna reach down in there, get that screw out of there. Now I believe all these screws that hold everything in are all the same length, so you don't have to worry about mixing them up. But we'll go ahead and get these other two out, and then we'll show you how to get that cluster out of there. So we have all three out. We're just gonna kind of pull this out of here, kind of rotate it upwards a little, pull it out to about there. Now I'm gonna get back behind here. You see that plug? There should just be a little plug there. We're gonna push that in and pull it out. I might need a pair of needle nose. You guys might need needle nose also. And then we're gonna come on this side, do the exact same thing. There's just a little button there you have to push, unplug it. So we got it unplugged. We're just gonna kind of rotate it upwards here. Well, actually, I am mistaken. There's three plugs. There's one in the middle and one on each side. So you don't wanna get them mixed up. We're gonna unplug that middle one right here now, and then we'll pull it out. So here we have the two clusters. Sorry about the glare. But you can see this cluster, this is the Japan one, it says STI, also has RPM in the center, revs out to 9,000, sorry I said 8,000 earlier in the video. Now here is the stock United States gauge cluster. You can see it only goes to 8, 150 mile per hour. Besides that, and besides it saying STI, the gauge clusters are the exact same. So we're gonna go ahead and get this Japan one in. I'm super excited. I love how it says STI. And if you see here, I don't know if you can see real close, he actually put a little decal over the K in kilometers per hour. So big shout out to G-ROM cluster reflashing for getting that done. I'll put a link in the description if you guys wanna get your cluster reflashed. But yeah, he did a great job. So we're gonna go ahead and get this one installed, and we'll show you guys what it looks like. So right away when I plugged it in, you see it says 208,058 miles. So my boy did a good job. Appreciate it. G-ROM's cluster reflashing, if you're watching this, hell of a job. We're gonna go ahead and get this thing installed now. We have the cluster exactly where it needs to be. We're just gonna go ahead and put all the screws in it, just 3. Now the top one I wasn't able to use my long screwdriver with, but the bottom 2, it was pretty important to have a longer screwdriver. So we're gonna go ahead and get that screwed in, and then we will put back on the shroud. So we have the shroud back in place. There's just a couple push pins. I haven't put the screws in it yet that are up here, but this is a great option for anybody looking to put a little spice to their gauge cluster in their Foresters. Like seriously, a lot of people I see, they put the STI United States, like the Impreza STI gauge clusters in their Foresters, and while that does look nice, it actually sweeps and it lights up a little more. I'm aware that when you put the Impreza STI gauge cluster in a Forester, there are a couple spaces that I just don't want it to bug me when I'm driving. I'm just too particular. So I like this gauge cluster, and like I said, this is a great option for any of you guys. We're gonna go ahead and get this screwed back in here. But seriously, don't be afraid of this install. It's so straightforward, so easy. As long as you do what I told you guys, you will be definitely a-okay. And I can recommend Forester Parts if you guys are thinking about a gauge cluster like this. Forester Parts and G-ROM's cluster reflashing. He has a Facebook page, they have Instagram. I'll put all that in the description, and shout out to all of them because they did a great job and I couldn't have done it without them. We have the gauge cluster in and everything is perfect. So this is where the video is gonna end for today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button, make sure to subscribe, and we'll be back for more cool videos soon. I love doing little tiny modifications to this car just over time, just to get it to where I want it to be. And that's exactly what we're gonna talk about in the next video. So we're gonna talk about the plans for this car and everything that you guys can be expecting to see on the channel. So yeah, if you guys wanna see that, like I said, be sure to subscribe and stay tuned. We'll be back soon. Peace.